Hey everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm happy to have you here with me today. As you can see, I am in the middle of stripping the paint off of my upper cabinets. As I shared with you in the last video, we have decided to change these cabinets from white, which is what they were before we scraped a lot of the paint off them, and paint them this beautiful sage green color that we did the lower cabinets a couple of weeks ago now. My hope was to have this done before I filmed a video again, but I promised that I would be sharing a lot of our Christmas baking with you over the next couple of weeks, and I was planning on making a couple of batches of cookies this morning, and I wanted to share that with you. So you are going to be here in the middle of my renovation zone. My goal is by the end of today, I'll have these all stripped and sanded. The actual cabinet doors are already all done and waiting downstairs for a coat of paint. I do want to get 2 good coats of paint on these so that they can hold up to the use that my kitchen gets. One tip I can give you if you are going to refinish old cabinets like these is definitely to strip the old paint off and give them a really good sand, because the new paint adheres so much better. And then when you are painting them, choose a paint that is specifically designed for cabinets. This one is actually called, I think it was a cabinet and trim paint or something like that, but specifically designed with a built-in primer as well, so we didn't have to prime the cabinets, which just saves a little bit of time. Another tip would be to leave them to cure for at least 72 hours before you put your cabinets back on, preferably in a really, really warm room. So we put ours in front of our wood stove downstairs. Excuse me, a little bit of a frog in my throat this morning. In this case, we had our cupboards off of here for a couple of weeks, curing downstairs, and I'm really happy that we waited that long because they are not scratching or anything at all, which is fantastic. I did actually just put a fresh coat of this particular stripper. This is a new one that I haven't used before, but I really like it because it is not nearly as toxic smelling as some of the other strippers. The only thing about this one is it does take at least an hour to, a lot of them take 15 minutes. You can put them on 15 minutes later, strip your paint off. This takes over an hour, and you can even leave it overnight. But once it has sat for that hour, it actually comes off super easily. The recipe that we are going to make today, well, we're gonna make 2 recipes, and both of them are grandmother recipes. This one is my Grandma Maude's radio cookies, and then we're also going to make my Grandma Maude's, or not my Grandma Maude, my Grandma Pam's shortbread. So there's a bit of a funny story behind these radio cookies. We've always called them radio cookies, even though they're a thumbprint cookie, ever since I was a little kid. And I thought when I was young that the reason they were called radio cookies is because the cookies themselves looked like the dial of an old radio. But it turns out the reason they're actually called radio cookies is because my grandmother had jotted the recipe down from a radio show, but she didn't catch the name of the recipe itself, so she always just called them radio cookies, and everyone she taught the recipe to, including my mom, she called them radio cookies. So radio cookies, they will always be, even though they are technically a thumbprint cookie. So let's get these going. Okay, I'm gonna run you through all of the ingredients and how to make these cookies, but I do have this recipe over on my website, and I also sent it out in a newsletter a couple of days ago. And I do believe if you sign up for the newsletter now, you will, up until Christmas time, get a copy of these recipes with the newsletter. I have been making these cookies every year for pretty much my entire life. I still need the recipe, probably because they're ones that I only make once a year. So we're gonna do 1/2 cup of butter. I'm sure this question is going to come up, so I'll just address it. I am going to keep the inside of my cupboards white, and my plan is to find a really cute wallpaper to put on the back of them, just so when you open up the cupboards, there's kind of a splash of cheeriness and color inside the cupboards. But the area that it is stripped all the way around will all be green. So 1 cup of packed brown sugar. And then we're gonna wanna mix this up till it's light and fluffy. And now we are going to add 2 eggs to this and beat them in. A teaspoon of vanilla. A teaspoon of salt. Just have to run downstairs and grab some more baking powder. 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 2.5 cups of flour. And then mix until it's well incorporated. And the taste of this cookie dough brings me back to childhood. Okay, so now all we're going to do is roll them into a walnut size ball like so. So now we are going to put a thumbprint in. So you'll notice here that I am using store-bought jam for these, and I make a fairly low sugar jam, and these just taste best if the sugar quantity is very high in your jam. At least we think so. So I always buy some raspberry jam for this purpose, and also for another recipe that we're going to make together later on in the week called marzipan squares. I also use it for that. So we're going to bake these at 350 for 12 minutes. And you want to keep a really close eye on them, because we don't want them to start to brown too much, because that dries them out. So we want them just lightly golden. The shortbread that we're going to make next calls for an entire pound of butter. That's what makes them so good. For this particular recipe, there really is no great substitute for butter. If anyone knows of one for making shortbread, let me know. One thing that my grandma always said to do was to make sure that you whip up your butter first until it is as light and fluffy as you can make it, and also until it is very pale, almost white. You can see how light and fluffy that is. I would be using my beater attachment, but it is broken. So now I'm just going to scrape down our sides here. So into this, we are going to add 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of icing sugar, and a 1/2 cup of cornstarch. So this is really odd, but I am entirely out of vanilla extract. So I'm going to use almond extract in here instead, because I love almond, and I think it'll be okay. And that's the end of my almond extract too, because I need to go shopping. So now we're just going to mix this together, and then we have to chill it for 30 minutes before we can bake it. And our radio cookies are just about finished too. Yes, it will seem like these are taking a long time to come together, but just give them a minute and they will. Just about there. So now we're going to put this into the fridge, and it is so crazy to me how nostalgic and how many memories I get when I'm doing Christmas baking in particular. It just seems to be this way for me for Christmas, but to be fair, my mom did put a huge amount of effort into making Christmas really special for us when we were kids. And it was definitely my favorite holiday, and she always had specific recipes that she only made when it was the holidays. So I guess that makes sense. So I'm just going to scrape these sides down here. Yes, they are. These are my kids' favorite Christmas cookies. So I made these a little bit too big. I could have done those balls half that size, but I don't think my kids are going to complain. Dan got the deck done on the bunkie yesterday, and he was saying that if this weather continues to hold, because we still don't really have any snow to speak of, and it's still warm, that he may get the stairs done before spring, which would be awesome.
Can I show you the one that I want?
Yeah, sure. Which one do you want? This giant one here, I bet. Yes, they're good when they have lots of jam, aren't they? Do want to be careful if you are going to eat these when they're still warm, because the jam can be very hot and burn your tongue. Tastes like Christmas. Okay, our cookie dough is now all chilled. So I'm going to make some balls similar to the radio cookies, only smaller, as I should have done these ones. But my kids were quite delighted since they have lots of jam in them and they're nice and big. So these are not going to spread out, so you can put them fairly close together. And the way that my mom always did them, and that I do sometimes if I have them, is put a maraschino cherry on the top, but since I don't have any maraschino cherries right now, they're going to be without. Using these particular recipes that I'm using today really does bring both my grandmothers to mind, with so many memories of them. In fact, my kitchen reminds me a lot of my grandmother's kitchen, my grandmother Maude, the radio cookie recipe grandma, and the memories that I have of her almost entirely revolve around her making food in the kitchen, always when we would go there to visit. And I remember she made my 5th birthday cake, and it was a strawberry shortcake cake. It had bright pink frosting with little red strawberries, and I think it had a strawberry shortcake doll on the top of it. I'm not sure. I think my mom might have a picture of that kicking around somewhere. And then I also remember that she had a drawer in her kitchen that she kept her flour in, like loose, so she could just scoop right out of the drawer. I could probably use something like that, couldn't I? One of my adult sons is here, and he is, I can hear the saw going outside. He's getting the plywood, finishing up the plywood on the walls in the other cabin. So that should be done by the end of today, which is great. The reason I didn't double my batches of cookies today is because I was doing 2 different kinds of recipes, and I have lots more Christmas baking to do yet before Christmas comes. So we are going to have plenty of sweet treats. My daughter's just going through a couple of my old cookbooks. The whole thing, does it say Christmas recipes? Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to do some recipes out of that one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the year on this one.
I am hoping that Kim is watching, because Kim sent these to me, and this one's best loved foods of Christmas. So we are going to have to try some of the recipes out of this one. There's no date on it, but I think it looks like 1940s probably. It looks very similar to some of my other 1940s cookbooks, but we'll definitely have to make a few recipes out of these.
I'm so happy I just found it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so now what we're gonna do with our cookies is use a dampened fork, and we're just going to mush them down a little bit.
On the ill estates of noblemen. Serve melted cheese as a substitute for rabbit, now often called rare bite. Sausage.
Did you say they served melted cheese
Melted cheese
as a substitute?
for rabbit.
Really?
Now often called rare bite. Sausage and Welsh rabbit.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we'd have to try that.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go across the other way. Make a little pattern in here.
Both them.
I love the old recipes. They're the best. Okay, into the oven with our cookies we go. Here we go. All of our cookies from the day. In my opinion, shortbread definitely tastes better when it's cooled off. So I'm going to cheat and take one outside to cool off really quickly. So remember, I stuck almond extract in here instead of vanilla extract, so it's going to be a new flavor. So if you don't have vanilla extract, definitely try almond extract because these are delicious. So what makes a really good shortbread cookie for me is that it's really crumbly in your mouth and soft. Oh my gosh. I think I might need to use almond extract from now on. Those are so good. The thing I really like about these cookies is they're quite rich because of all the butter, but not super sweet. So kind of a perfect cookie. These are really yummy. Do you want to try one? You have to tell me what you think. They're warm. What are your thoughts?
Good.
Do you like the radio cookies better? Or do you like the shortbread cookies better?
I think I like the radio cookies better.
I can understand that. The shortbread cookies are kind of more of a grown-up flavor cookie, I think.
But they are so good.
That's good. I'm glad you like them. All right, my friends, that is it for today's video. I'll see you again in a couple of days. I'm going to try to put as many of our Christmas recipes out for you before Christmas as I possibly can. So like I mentioned in my last video, these videos will be a little bit shorter than my vlog style videos are. I will probably do a couple of vlogs in the next couple of weeks, but most of the videos I'll be sharing with you will be Christmas baking videos. I hope that you enjoyed this one, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.